continue on page 214.
Ve'al kulam yitbarach ve'itromam yitbarach ve'itromam Shimcha Malkeinu Tamid Leolam Vaed Me'al Kulam Yitbarach Ve'itromam Yitbarach Ve'itromam Shimcha Malkeinu Tamid Leolam Vaed V'chol ha'chaim yoducha sela v'hallelu et shimcha be'emet ha'el Yeshuateinu ve'ezrateinu Ezrateinu Selah Ve'al kulam Yitbarach Ve'itromam Yitbarach Ve'itromam Ata Adonai Hatov Shimcha Ulecha Na'ed Lehodot.
That's really nice.
Thank you.
I mean, I feel like I could have sung it better, but it was good though. It was.
I'll do it again next week.
Yeah, we'll try.
Yeah, until I get it perfect.
Yeah. We apologize for the tech issues. Something isn't working. There was a storm last night. I don't know if you heard it. There was a storm by my house, and I think that it. Great Scott, and I think it did something to our system. So it's not working. So I'm getting a lot of messages from a lot of people who are wondering what's going on. So I feel like everyone's like, what's going on? So
Will that work?
what? That should work, but
So maybe we want to turn it on now?
we can try it. Let's see what we got here. Is that working? There we go. See who pops in. See if anyone's. Oh, two people. Okay. All right. So that's working. Good. We're going to continue with Seder Kriyat HaTorah, the service for reading the Torah, which can be found on page 244.
Ein kamocha va'elohim Adonai ve'kev ma'asecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim u'memshaltecha bechol dor v'hador Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai imloch le'olam ha'ed Adonai oz le'amo hitein Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom Av harachamim היטיבה ברצונך את ציון. תמנה חומות ירושלים, כי בך לבד בטחנו, מלך אל רם ונישא, אדון עולמי.
כי מציון תצא תורה, כי מציון תצא תורה, אדוני מירושלים. 248.
ברוך
שנתן תורה תורה,
ברוך שנתן תורה תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד, אחד אלוהינו גדול אדוננו קדוש שמו. גדלו אדוני איתי ונרוממה שמו יחדיו.
Please be seated. I hear the live stream is working, which is good. That's what I hear. We are going to do a little Torah chanting before we discuss our Torah on this fine Shabbat morning. Ah, yes, the sounds of the Velcro. The sacred sounds of the Velcro, like in the days of old. So yes, Susie's going to be our Baalat Kriya today. She's going to be chanting the Torah. This is right. She's chanting Torah. Yeah, she's
No, I'm not.
You said you're chanting Torah.
No.
She's doing the Aliyah. Yeah, she's doing the Aliyah. Just wanted to make sure you were awake this morning, Susie. Susie's going to be doing the Aliyah for us this morning.
I'd be more than happy to.
Yes, yeah. I did it on purpose. I wanted to see his face too. He was like, "What? I didn't have to read Torah?"
Yes.
No. All right. Remind me your Hebrew name.
Sarah bat Chaim v'Leah.
Tamod Sarah bat Chaim v'Leah lalei Torah. We are on page 250 in your prayer books, if you wish. That is where the aliyot are. And Harry, what page are we? 1174. Oh, thanks, Dr. Bob. 1174 is where we are at the beginning of the Torah portion of Pinchas. Pinchas, this fine Shabbat morning. What?
Baruchu et Adonai hamavorach.
Baruch Adonai Amarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamavorach leolam va'ed. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch ata Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aharon HaKohen Eshiv et chamati me'ah b'nei Israel b'kan'o et kin'ati batocham v'lo chiliti et b'nei Israel b'kinati lachein emor hineni noten lo et briti shalom v'haita lo uzaro achara berit kunat olam tachat asher kinei leloham vayichaper al bnei Yisrael.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Shekoach. Shekoach, everybody. Shekoach.
Were those hard words? Those were hard words.
There's hard words. It's hard words. It's the whole Hebrew thing. But you're doing so much better with the Hebrew, Cantor
I know.
Muchnick.
I mean, I just learned it last week.
You're doing a really good job with it. Next time, Susie, you can chant the Torah if you want. All right, friends. So we heard some words of Torah. We are amidst our Torah service. Let's discuss a little bit of our Torah portion this week, which is the Torah portion of Pinchas. 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 So if you found Pinchas, it's 25:10 is where you find Pinchas, 25:10, 25:10.
Shabbat shalom.
Hi, Shabbat Shalom. Hi, Gail. Who else is there?
There were people on, but it froze, so they might have gone elsewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, it froze, but then I think we're back. I think
Shabbat shalom.
hi. I think we're back up.
Rob, you're there.
I think we're back up.
Shalom.
Oh, here's the owl. The owl eyes are on. I think we're back up. I think everything's working now. I think the live stream is working too. I'm pretty sure.
Shabbat shalom.
Hi, Ron.
Wow.
Hi. Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Hi. Oh, we got some people coming in. Whoop, 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 whoop. So we are on Pinchas 25:10. Now that you're comfy there, I want you to go back. So I want you to hold your finger on Pinchas, but I want you to go back to 25:1. Please. Which is going to take you back into Balak. But it's the end of Balak, the end of last week's Torah portion. Harry? Yes. Wonderful. Yes. Uh-huh. Oh, okay. So that would make sense then. If for those who are on live stream or who don't hear, Harry said he did a little research on Moab because of our conversation of the Moabites last week, to find out that it's sort of on that vicinity of where Jordan would be now, and that also the population at that time was about 700,000, which is why hypothetically they were nervous. Uh-huh. Okay. It has to look terrifying. Yeah, have to look terrifying to have 1.2 million people sitting there. No, it's great. Yeah. Yes, we had a turbulent relationship with the Moabites. Yes.
We were friendly. We were not friendly. We were warlike. David held them up for ransom. There's a lot of history there. Almost today, what we have with some of our other countries.
Very nice. Yeah. And so I love that you did all the research, and we touched on it a little bit last week too, that the Moabites are a necessity for us. So no matter they're a necessary evil or a non-necessary evil, because we need the Moabites, because we talked about this last week, we need Ruth, right? Why do we need Ruth? Because we need David, right? So we need David. So we always, this David, not just this David, but as in King David, right? So yes, beautiful. Yeah. It's interesting. So here's the connection from last week to this week. So let's look at it now. So yeah, good. All right. Let's do the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Now I'm getting all the text messages. Everyone's on. Yay! I'm getting like that. Yay! I'm getting all the cheery, happy. Oh, everyone's so excited. Good. All right. I swear, if I had a full head of hair, I would lose it over. So good thing I just don't have it, because if I did, I would just fall out because of this pressure that the live stream produces for me. But I figured it out. We figured it out. That was the last ditch. The last ditch attempt was that there was lightning last night and it knocked out our channel. We had to plug it back in, but we did. Okay. Yay! All right. So if you recall from last week, there was a kind of happy ending where we stopped. Because we had Balak, we had Bilam, we had this attempt for Balak to curse the Israelites. He did so with what he thought would be the assistance of Bilam. It doesn't work. It gets thwarted. Right, the talking donkey gets in the way, and then rather than get the curse, we get the blessing, which is Matovu, which, by the way, becomes the liturgy across the globe. We can all agree across movements, Matovu starts the morning service. So no one's going to argue that point. And the fascinating part, clearly, those are the words of Bilam. So it's a beautiful thing. And then we stopped last week and we're like, yay! It's also a good place to stop for when you talk to religious school kids about this. Yay! Great ending, Matovu, wonderful. What we didn't read was the last 9 verses of the Torah portion, which are right here. We have a question already?
Yes.
Yes.
Gail.
Hi, Gail.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, in that section, last week we thought Balaam had transformed, but we see that he really didn't when he makes the suggestion or curse about going to be with the,
We're gonna read it right now.
women.
We're gonna read it right now, Gail. We're gonna do it. We're gonna read it right now. Yeah.
But that was our homework too.
Yeah, good. Oh, I'm happy you did your homework, because that was the homework from last week. I'm happy you did your homework, Gail. You get a gold star. You get a cookie. You get a gluten-free cookie, because both Rabbi Kahn needs one and Kentor Muchnick. So you get gluten-free cookies.
I got my tooth pulled, so I can't even.
Oh, you get chocolate pudding.
Sounds perfect.
All right, okay, good. All right. Let please, if you wouldn't mind, 25:1.
While Israel was staying at Shittim, the menfolk profaned themselves by whoring with the Moabite women, who invited the menfolk to the sacrifices for their god. The menfolk partook of them and worshipped that god. Thus Israel attached itself to Baal Peor, and the Eternal was incensed with Israel. The Eternal One said to Moses, "Take all the ringleaders and have them publicly impaled before the Eternal, so that the Eternal's wrath may turn away from Israel." So Moses said to Israel's officials, "Each of you slay those of his men who attach themselves to Baal Peor."
Okay, so Balak fails. And then he realizes he has a new plan. What's the new plan? Get the women. Let's get the women. The Moabite women are beautiful. Let's just flood the camp with Moabite women, essentially, right? That's what he says. They were hanging out. They were staying there. And then, did the plan work? It did. Well, it worked for a lot of them, right? It works for a lot of them. Not only, and the text goes out of its way to, I'm not making the word up, it says by whoring themselves, so it says so, right, with the Moabite women. And not only is that that's one issue, and that's the basic issue, but then what happens next? What happens in 2b and into 3? So now it gets even more complicated. So the women are a problem to begin with, right? But now you start to talk about the fact that they attach themselves to Baal Peor. Who's Baal Peor? What's Baal Peor? The gods, or their head god, right? So now they're praying. Now, and tell me where we are. How close are we to the promised land? How far into the 40 years are we? We're there. So it's not like the Israelites made the mistake just coming out of Egypt where they saw idols. It's not like They were confused. This is the new crew. This is the new crew already. We're like on the cusp. We're like a week away, essentially, from being there. And they fall to the women, and they fall into the hands of Baal Peor. What's wrong? What's wrong with exactly? What's wrong? And so, if you look at 4, God is clearly extremely upset, right? God is incensed. God has the ringleaders impaled, and God wants God's wrath to be turned around. So we could end here if we wanted to and be upset. But now it gets even more upsetting if we continue with verse 6.
Just then, one of the Israelite notables came and brought a Midianite woman over to his companions in the sight of Moses and of the whole Israelite community, who were weeping at the entrance of the tent of meeting.
Okay, so what happens? What happens in 6? Bless you. What happened in 6? Bless you. Okay, so people, why are they weeping? This is a really terrible thing. People are getting impaled left and right. So first of all, who knows where the men went? The Moabite women are all over the camp. Who knows what that scene looks like? You can put that scene together in like a biblical, complicated scene of what's going on there. It's really terrible. People are being impaled. People are weeping. The whole system's coming apart, right? All the good work, all the stuff that we've been learning about, all the whole idea of the book of Leviticus and all the process of working on together as a people is just like gets just all torn to pieces. So people are really upset. It's very upsetting. So they're weeping. Where are they weeping? What's the tent of meeting? That's the place, right? That's the spot, right? That's the spot. Who's sitting right there? Well, who's sitting there first? Moses. Okay, so Moses is sitting in the tent of meeting where he usually does. And so that's verse 6. Now we're going into verse 7.
When Pinchas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron the priest, saw this, he left the assembly and, taking a spear in his hand, he followed the Israelite notable into the chamber and stabbed both of them, the Israelite notable and the woman, through the belly. Then the plague against the Israelites was checked. Those who died of the plague numbered 24,000.
Okay, so 24,000 people died because of this. So perhaps Balak doesn't get the win-win, but he gets a win, right? So at the end of last week, we're like, yay, zippity-doo-dah, but it's a pretty bad and complicated ending to this. Now, if you look at 7, it says, when Pinchas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron the priest, so how famous and important is Pinchas? He's a big guy. How big guy? He's Aaron's grandson. So we got some yichus going on here. We know yichus? You know the word yichus? Yeah, like yichus is like your connection to someone. This is Aaron's grandson, right? So comes over, right? When Pinchas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron the priest, saw this, what did he see, by the way? Yes, he did. So he walked it, not just doing the deed, but doing it in front of who? Doing it in front of who? In front of Moses. Where in front of Moses? In front of the tabernacle. So he literally dragged her in front of Moses and in front of the tabernacle, and that's where they engage in the deed, in the middle of Moses on purpose. And so he gets incensed, and he follows them into the chamber, and he stabs both of them. So we're adults. How does he get both of them at the same time? Because they're together. They're literally connected, right? And so the spear goes through the belly and gets them both at the same time. And so they're both stabbed, and then once that's done, the plague is checked and everything stops. And 24,000 people die. And that's how last week ends. We will find out in a moment. Great question. She has a great name. It's too bad we can't use that name because it's a good name. It's like a really cute Hebrew name. If you could use it, it's just I don't want to throw that around as someone that we want to use. It's a great name. We're about to learn her name. So yes, we're about to learn both their names. Both of these people who are in this mess. So we're about to know. But this is how last week ends. So we think it's going to end really well because it's like, yeah, ma tovu, yay. And then this happens. Okay, so now, how do we feel about Pinchas? Just judge Pinchas for me just from the end of last week before we even get to him in a minute. Because I promise you it's going to get more complicated in a minute. He's a hero. All right, he's a hero. Okay? He's not a hero. Okay? Okay, so he didn't have the authority, although he did have the yichus, right? I mean, he was the grandson of Aaron. Do you think that's enough? No, I'm going to continually, in the next 20 minutes or so, continually try to make you feel less and less uncomfortable. So that's what we're going to be doing now. Or more and more uncomfortable, I'm sorry. I'm going to try and make you feel more and more uncomfortable. Great, okay. So, you think he was brave? You think Pinchas was brave? Okay, great. Look, 24,000 people died. Had he had not done it, maybe 55,000 people would have died, or 100,000 people would have died. Well, people died already because they were being impaled. So people were already dying. That was happening already while this was happening. So in the middle of the impaling, in the middle of the system that was going on, these two people, he dragged her, right, the Midianite woman, in front of Moses and in front of the tent of meeting and engaged in what they engaged in. So, with a nice large spear. Ow. Yes.
Moses said to each of the officials, slay each one who attached himself to Baal. So is the argument now whether this guy was just doing it with her or whether he had engaged in their God?
So is the question, was he just doing with her simply, or was he engaged with Baal Peor also? Did he fall under the spell, if you will, of the other gods, or just decide to have sex with this Midianite woman?
Right, because
it doesn't say.
If he's in with the God, then Moses tells them to impale. No, God told them.
Okay. Oh, interesting. So if you're saying he did fall for Baal Peor, and because of that he's also now having sex with the Midianite woman, then he is in the category, he's in the slaughter category, let's just say, just to make everyone feel nice and uncomfortable. He's in the slaughter category, right? Because God says, kill them all. Great. Okay. But if he's not, you're saying, so the question that you're asking is, does he not fall for Baal Peor and just wants to have sex with the woman in front of Moses, then maybe we do need or don't need, it's up to you for us to decide, right? Do we need Pinchas to go and kill them? Who was? Pinchas was set an example, a positive example, you're saying. Okay. By the way, you're going to hear who agrees with you in a minute. Someone's going to agree with you in a minute, by the way. Someone or something is going to agree with you in a minute about that. Dr. Bob? Yeah, good. Tell us.
We're using Torah to help us lead the proper life today.
Yes.
Not 3,000 years ago today.
Okay.
We want religious zealots deciding how to behave and inflicting punishment on people on their own accord. And to me, that's really a problem.
Right. So for those who didn't hear, Dr. Bob is asking, do we want zealots to on their own accord decide on their own accord that they don't like a situation or are zealous in that situation and decide, quote unquote, to pick up a spear and take action in their own hands and kill someone? Which, by the way, replace spear with any object that you want. Gun, sword, whatever you want. Nuclear bomb, right? Fine. So do we want do we want someone at this level who is going to just make a decision in their moment of fury, in their moment of zealousness to be able to do this? Of zealotry, thank you. Zealousness, zealotry? I don't know. Whatever you say. Yes? Yeah, right, well, okay.
This wasn't a thought-out decision he made. This was something he did in the moment of passion. I'm going to say his Yetzer Hara was just as strong as the Israelites.
Okay, so Dr. Bob is saying that the Yetzer Hara, your sort of good inclination and bad inclination was off balance, and this was a bad inclination, and he was just in this sort of zealous moment, right, where he wasn't thinking, was it? Okay, great. So yeah.
What about verse 4, where God says to Moses, tell the people to take the swords and publicly impale? Right, I mean, it wasn't like they did it on their own, they were told to.
Right, so God said so. This is also complicated, right? But there's no zealotry yet, right? So there's no zealotry. I mean, I'm not saying that whatever God says in this moment is a great moment for everyone. This is why people are also weeping, right? Because the section is so awful and complicated. But no zealotry is happening yet. So this is just people who are misbehaving, that God punishes, or something happens with them, and that's not the first time this happens in text. So this is not the first time this happens. So nothing zealous has happened up yet. The zealotry happens starting on 6 and further, right? Yeah. Okay. Oh, now you guys are friends this week. Last week you weren't friends. This week you are friends. I'm just saying. All right, great, okay. Right? Okay.
Pinchas is an exact example of what these people are doing. We cannot allow that in our society.
All right. So what you're saying, I'm just repeating for people who can't hear, right? That Judaism particularly is a communal society, and that we can't afford, or we should not allow, or we shouldn't tolerate people who sort of make individual decisions on behalf of our community and just go out and stab people in the belly with a spear, right? Yeah.
As we study Torah and we look at the Constitution of this body of laws in America, there is so much similarity, so much basis that if we allow people to forget all that we've written,
Yeah.
all that's in the book and all that's in the laws, to go and take it upon themselves, the vigilantes, if you will, the zealots, we have such a chaotic situation. How do we take care of our children?
Right. Okay. So we cannot let just zealotry run amok. That's not how we function. But I'm gonna ask you another uncomfortable question, and that is, do we need Pinchas though in this moment? Do we need him? Because what if he doesn't do what he does? What if Pinchas doesn't do this? Then the plague continues. So it says. It says was checked, right? The plague was checked in that moment. 24,000 people died. What if he doesn't grab the spear and kill them? What if we're at 100,000 or 200,000 or 300,000 or 400,000? So do we require sometimes someone like Pinchas to show up and do something? I'm just asking you. Yes? Okay.
So there seems to be an affirmation that act was accepted as appropriate.
Okay. So, yes. To say that it looks as if God accepts this action, because once the action is taken, the plague is checked. So what you're saying is that God sort of accepts the fact that whether it's positive and cheery and happy or not, but God accepts this action because the plague is checked. Yeah.
Going back to what Harry and Mark said, the idea, bringing it to today. When people do things because God told them to,
Yeah.
they're zealots.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Or prophets.
well, that's not my belief, so
Or prophets. I told you I'm going to make my plan was to make the space as complicated as possible this morning. Why? Why? It's the same thing. If I tell you I'm speaking to God, and God told me to do something, and that is to come and clear out a city because you're all acting badly, why is that? Why are you going to believe me more than I tell you something else, that you all should die or this should change? Like, why does that sound different to you? Both statements should sound crazy to you. I should sound just as crazy to both of you on both statements. Thank you. You're welcome, Harry. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, but go on. There was a part B.
So to say, I mean, we can read on, obviously we'll read more, but to say that,
I think it's funny you said obviously we're going to read more. Yes, we are. Yeah, for sure. Yes. Yeah. No, we are. We have to. Yeah, we're not even in the Torah portion yet. Yeah.
so to say in verse 4, the Eternal said to Moses, to do what he then did, that's okay, that's not zealotry, but then later on when Pinchas, acts supposedly on his own volition, but it's just, I don't know how to say, but it's frustrating to me, and there's a lot that we read all the time, and we say, but God said so, and sometimes it's a good thing that God gives good direction, and sometimes it's not, and we say, is God in charge or not, and I don't like all that.
No, yeah. I don't like it. Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's
So I think in today's world, people who use that as an excuse to do terrible things.
Mhm.
Or maybe sometimes it's good things, but you can't have it both ways.
Right.
So if you're going to be doing what God tells you to do without using your own mind and your own heart, then I don't know that that's a good thing. And yet I believe, in doing things.
Good, right? But ultimately, we
Because I'm, as a Jewish person, I'm being a light unto the nation, I'm leading,
of course.
and so being Jewish does it mean because I'm hearing God? Go on.
It's very uncomfortable. Yeah, if you're uncomfortable, excellent, because it's an uncomfortable space. It's an uncomfortable conversation. I think it's one of the most uncomfortable conversations is Pinchas. We haven't even talked about him yet. We're only in visit. Yeah. Doesn't matter. In the biblical sense, it's not their decision.
But if they were being raped,
It's not seen that way. It's not seen that. Don't use the 2022 hat. Don't use the fact that we're the Reform movement hat. It won't work. They were property. They were property of the man. They were property of the king. They were property of whatever. And so, when they said to go in and do whatever they want, they had to. It wouldn't translate to today. That concept, but uncomfortable, and I don't disagree. It's terrible. Like, so who sends you in and says, "Oh, go have sex with all the men"? Like, it doesn't sound right. But it's outside of a realm that we're comfortable with, or even discuss in our movement. So, yeah. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, yes.
So you postulated that if Pinchas didn't do this,
Yes.
how many more people would have been lost? Would it have been 100,000, 200,000?
Yeah.
We're on the brink of going into the promised land.
Yeah.
Were there going to be any people left to go into the promised land if he didn't do this?
Right. So does he need to do it? Does he need to do it? Does this need to happen? Whether we like it or not, does Pinchas need to stand up, grab the spear, and kill them on the spot? Well, actually, we can throw another word in there, right? I'm saying the word kill. We could say murder. I mean, he murders them because he's not a kill, he murders them. So he murders them, right? We could go into that conversation. We need another 4 hours for that one. Yes. One and then two. Yeah.
So 24,000 people have been killed in the battle, and now one more is killed in the battle.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that perhaps God saw what he had wreaked on the people by ordering this impalement.
Uh-huh.
And God decided to stop it because now enough was enough. So maybe, because you see the growth of God throughout Torah.
Great. Beautiful. Beautiful. So maybe God does see this as enough. Maybe even God's also upset about it. Maybe what's God's mood, by the way? How do you know? It says it in the text. It says God is incensed. So we know that God, whatever emotion God has that maybe resonates with us so we understand, right? Probably God doesn't get incensed. But for our perspective, God gets incensed. So we know that God is incensed. So maybe he's also like, 24,000. Okay, it's too much. Like, oh, I'm done. Maybe we're done. This was enough for me. So maybe. Although that's a big number, right?
So he would have done it even if Pinchas hadn't. He would have stopped.
Maybe. Well, this is a very, very good hypothesis. Maybe he stopped at some other point.
I may be anthropomorphizing too much, but this is done right in front of the tabernacle. So maybe that's a big word.
Yeah.
But it was a good word. So the prologue to the plague was that the Israelite men were mingling or whoring with the Moabite women.
Yeah.
The question is, was God simply having the people who had bonded, who had in fact gone to worship their God, be the ones that were killed? Therefore, it would have been a self-limiting plague. The plague was only to screen out those individuals who had been unfaithful to the Israelite God.
Interesting.
So it would not have ultimately killed everyone because
Got it. It was a fixed decision by God. It was only going to happen to those who fell who were susceptible to Baal Peor, right, to the other god, you're saying. So it was a finite plague anyway, so it wouldn't have gone on and on and on.
because it's a punishment for their actions of mingling with the Moabite women and worshiping with them.
So that hypothesis then says, do we need Pinchas at all? Because God says this is a plague that's only going to affect those who are connected to Baal Peor, which now questions the fact was this guy who took this Midianite woman, goes back to your question, was he in fact interested just in her or interested in Baal Peor? That's also complicated. Harry, and then we're going to transition. Yeah. Yeah.
This is very, very much when I actually read a commentary on how it compares to the golden calf.
Yeah.
And what God did then was that, okay, you guys, you're not getting to go, it's over.
Yeah. God was pretty upset then too with the golden calf. God wants to kill everybody with the golden calf. God wants to wipe everybody out that's there. It's Moses Moses who calms him down, or her down.
God has grown and God has with us.
Yeah.
But as far as the 24,000 for the number of going on, if God is omnipotent, there is a sense of law that is more than just us, the universe. There's something more than us.
Yeah.
We're really going to accept that. God is going to know when to stop this because the commandment says do not murder.
Right.
Pinchas murdered.
Yeah.
Communally, as a communal society, it was impaled these people. It was a law that was passed on executing a law. Pinchas was not part of that. He actually
So you're saying if we like stretch this hypothetically, that the impalement was a capital punishment, if you will, that was coming from God, and the moment with that the moment that's witnessed of this couple, that is then the murder. It's murder, that, right? That Pinchas notices this couple and murders them outside of the capital punishment realm, if you will, from God to say, you people disobeyed me, you broke the law, there's punishment for that. There's a biblical line of how that functions, and because of that, you're killed. But these two is murder, hypothetically.
You go to where God says, I am God, I am all that. He wasn't punishing.
The first one? Yeah. The first commandment, I'm God, that one? Yeah. That's the first one, yeah. It's the first one, yeah. Of the 10. Yeah, great. Yeah, I'm trying to. I'm just kidding. All right, good, okay, excellent. All right, so, yes, really last statement, and then this is going to carry us, I think, right into the Torah portion, because we haven't even touched it yet. Okay. All right.
Why do you want to kill all these people?
Uh-huh.
What are all the other people around you thinking?
Right.
Just, okay, murder. Let's go.
Okay, so I want you to carry that Moses piece right there. We're going to talk about that in a second. Not the golden calf piece. We're going to throw Moses into this story in a minute too. All right, leave Balak miraculously. We're actually going to go into Pinchas now. All right, 25:10 is where we are. 25:10 Pinchas, please.
The Eternal One spoke to Moses, saying, Pinchas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron, the priest, has turned back my wrath from the Israelites by displaying among them his passion for me, so that I did not wipe out the Israelite people in my passion. Say, therefore, I grant him my pact of friendship. It shall be for him and his descendants after him a pact of priesthood for all time, because he took a passionate action for his God, thus making expiation for the Israelites.
Okay. So, what does God think about this? God is flattered. Rabbi, you don't agree God is flattered?
I think that's one way to read it. I also think that the English translation makes it sound a little more clear than it is. That it's not a pact of friendship, it's a pact of peace.
Yes.
And so maybe it's God saying, okay, you need to calm down, and so I'm going to work with you to be more calm and peaceful, and your descendants to never do this again.
Interesting. Wow. Interesting. Yes.
But this kind of conflicts with what happened with Aaron's sons, who became all excited, they were burning fire, and they got them wiped out, 1, 2, 3. And so it's different here.
Yeah.
It's like confusing, it's confusing.
The tone of these words are very similar to
A
the tone of the
tone of a pardon, you're saying? They're similar to the tone of a pardon. Okay. So there's a pardon tone. There's a teaching, peaceful tone that Rabbi Khan is sharing with us to say, maybe this is a teachable moment to say to Pinchas, okay, thank you, but also you're about to be the high priest, and high priests don't go around stabbing people with spears. So we're going to have to work on that. Yes.
So Pinchas is very in line with Aaron and his family. I mean, this is not new for this family. They continually not only make the rules, but then break the rules, and some die and some get punished. I mean, like this is my problem with Aaron. Is like all of it is problematic. They seem to be judge, jury, and executioner on all of this. They dictate everything, and then if they don't want to be punished, they decide they're above everybody else. And Pinchas is no different. I guess like this is very in line with what this family does throughout this entire story.
Fascinating. By the way, if we fast forward down this line for hundreds and hundreds of years, and you agree with what happens in the fall of the Second Temple, they would agree with you, because the Sadducees, some say, help to have the temple fall. That the Sadducees were the ones who did it. And who are the Sadducees? They're the priests. So that the priesthood sort of felt that they were above everybody else because, you know what? They were. But you can also be above somebody else and not act like it. Right? I do. I blame everyone. I blame it on all Cohens. Everything should go on. Anyone who's a Cohen lays the blame.
Moses is the grand uncle of Pinchas, right?
Yeah. They're related. They're all related. Clearly.
My great aunts and uncles hopefully would help me out if I did something that wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like this is a lot of this is still.
Can we agree that what Pinchas did is murder? Yes or no? Yes. Does anyone think no? Okay, great. Excellent. So, now. Okay. Yeah, but that's not the point. Hold on. So hold on to it. So Pinchas hypothetically murders them. Is Moses a murderer? Why is Moses a murderer?
From the very beginning.
Okay. Okay.
He's an accomplice.
Who is an accomplice?
Moses.
God told him to do it. No, he murdered the overseer.
Ah, right. He hypothetically, well, there's no other way around it, right? Murders the taskmaster, right? All the way in Exodus.
But if you're going to try to compare,
I'm just throwing it out there. Yeah?
right? If you're going to try and compare those two,
Yes?
Moses truly acted on his own out of a fit of rage, seeing what he was. There was no commandment, there was no decree by God. Saying,
Okay.
Hey, if you happen to see something like this, go ahead and murder that person.
Okay.
He just did it. Whereas Pinchas, at least there was something out there in the realm of, if this is kind of taking place, impale. Now, did it fall into his own right to decide like this is bad and this is good? You know, perhaps. But the truth is that the actions that were happening at that moment fell into the realm of the reason why God made this decree in the first place, and it was happening right there.
Aha. All right. Rabbi.
But we don't actually know that for sure.
Right.
The decree was to kill the people who had worshipped the other god. And in this instance, even though it's in front of the temple meeting, so rabbis say it was correlated to that, this act is not about the worship of the other god, it's just about being with this woman. And that is not actually what God said to do. That is taking it a step further. That is taking what God said and saying, well, if you're doing this, then I'm killing you. If you read the text, it's not just that being with these women is what pissed God off. It was that led to then idolatry.
And now we know that Jewish text isn't linear, right? So we can't pretend that Jewish text doesn't go this way, right? Jewish text goes this way and this way and this way, all Jewish text, which also means, by the way, that the Torah doesn't necessarily go this way. It means the Mishnah doesn't necessarily. Everything's all a ball, right? A ball and a sphere and a triangle, and that's how Jewish text functions. Jewish text is not linear ever. That being said, I'm a Moses lover, and so I'm always going to go try and save Moses whenever I can. So there's a beautiful piece of text that's usually put on a nice little plaque for a lot of people who do a lot of great things in companies or agencies or synagogues. And it's a piece of Mishnah that says, in a place where there is no ish, where there's no mensch, be that mensch. So a lot of people save Moses and say, by the way, that he's not a murderer because if you look at that text, it's a brilliant piece of text. It says Moses looks left and right before he murders a taskmaster. So some people say, people who don't like Moses say, because you're about to murder someone, you're like, murder. But if you like Moses, the commentary says, well, how come no one sees this? How come no one else is seeing what's going on? I have to do this. I have to murder this person in order for the rest of the story to go on. So if you take the same piece of text and put it onto Pinchas, does he need to do this for us to keep the story going? I'm just putting it out there. Yes, who's on there? Gail.
I was just going to say, as far as Moses, he also was angered, didn't take it out on Aaron with the golden calf. He had originally stopped God, and then he went about taking care of it himself. And as far as Pinchas, I think an important fact was that the act was taking place in the chamber.
So how so? Interesting. Right. Good. That's the text really specifies that the act takes place in the chamber. So why is that significant, though, Gail?
Because it's a sacred place.
Okay. Okay. It's yeah. So now I'll ask you this. Put yourself for a second in Pinchas' shoes, right? Pinchas is the grandson of Aaron. He's also the he's also the great nephew of Moses. So significant dude, right? So have you ever been in a position where you are higher up and you feel that no one else is doing something, and so you have to go out of your way to do something because no one else is doing it, and there's an expectation that you should be doing it because of who you are? Right? There's an expectation that's placed on you for your action because why isn't he doing something? It's Pinchas, right? So he was probably sitting there and thinking to himself, I can't let this couple go and have sex in front of Moses in the middle of this horrible tragedy here. I can't sit here. Now, whether he wanted to or not, internally, maybe he felt obligated that he needed to because of the situation that he was in. I want to paint all the scenarios for you and throw them all out there and make it all a big mishmash. Yes?
But I don't think that, I think that that's giving Pinchas too much credit because, like,
Fine.
First off, Moses has already, like, decreed that this would happen, so if it's happening in front of Moses, presumably Moses could have impaled him if this was supposed to be the case.
He was tired. Moses was tired. He's 120. He can't even lift up that spear himself. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Ian.
I might be also projecting what was in Pinchas' mind, but it does say that what he did was impassioned. It makes him seem like an irrational actor. That he didn't think. He just reacted viscerally to this. And furthermore, it also says that God's reaction to what Pinchas did is to be impressed by that passion. And that's where it gets a little, well, not a little, but that's where it gets complicated for me, right? Because to have the idea that, oh, wow, you completely irrationally just murdered these two people, like, cool, dude, like, thanks, great.
Now, you said the word passion. Isn't passion a very complicated word, though? Because passion can be great, right? We can be passionate about something. I can be passionate. No, but it just says, I mean, it says with my passion, but passion can be, right, but, okay.
It could also mean that maybe he was jealous.
Oh, so now you say he was jealous. And by the way, if you look at the Hebrew, it says jealous. It says in my jealousy. So bikinati in Hebrew means my jealousy. Because God tells us throughout the text that God is jealous. God is a jealous God. God is an impassioned God. God is a jealous God. Pinchas might also be. It's possible. It's possible. Yes. Okay. God gets to be. Yes. Yes. Okay.
Technically, God gave Moses a pardon too.
Not really.
Sure he did.
What's his part in?
For the taskmaster.
No,
Goes ahead and
no, he can't go in the promised land. This is the punishment.
that's not what we ever talked about.
Oh, for sure. It's all
That's
compiled.
our reason.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He's not going to the promised land because of all the bits and pieces, the mistakes that he made. It can't just be the rock.
Bring up the whole hitting the rock.
Because the rock is the end of it. That's the last, but I don't make up these commentaries. It's not my commentary. So I'm not making this up. If I did, it'd be really awesome if I was making these up. I'm not. Ian? No, please. Please, we have a good 3 minutes left. Go ahead.
For God to say that he's jealous of Baal Peor, sort of implies that Baal Peor exists. Which,
Or that he's an equal.
Well, Baal Peor probably does exist.
so then wait, there are other gods in our universe that exist that we just chose our God? Yes.
Probably, yeah. Who was like you? Yeah.
Well, I always read that as it's
What's the second commandment?
God is
What's the first commandment?
angry God.
What's the second commandment? No other gods.
Well, I always thought that meant just that there was one true God, and all the other ones weren't real. That's what they want you to think. So there are other gods.
No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't worship any other gods.
But that implies that they exist.
I think they probably do still. I think they still do today. I think gods exist today. Don't you think? Don't we worship 1,000 things? We worship things all the time. Don't you worship 1,000 things that we shouldn't worship? Money.
Now we're changing the whole contract.
Why? Why? That's an idol. Don't we worship it? Don't we pray to it? Don't we think about it? Don't we want it? Doesn't it engulf us?
It's who it takes a person to feel safe with, then they have a God for it. If you believe in Buddha, if you believe in
Right. It's true.
so that's it. For us, God is the only God.
Yeah. Exactly.
We've got a body of law for it. Well, what I'm saying is,
For us, God is the only God.
This is fun. I could do this for another 2 hours.
So for us, right, God is the only God.
This is where I realized I picked the right drop. This is why I realized my.
Rabbi,
Which one?
and was able to keep that rock in your house, and that's what you then worship the rock. You didn't worship the concept that there's something more than just real.
Oh, this is so good. This is so good. I could do this for 2 hours. Keep going.
And our Jewish God, for that to be jealous, would have to mean that Baal Peor exists.
Ron, save us.
But he
Ron,
says it
save us.
In the Ten Commandments, you shall not worship other gods other than me, right? So even God self is saying that there are other gods, but you guys are making this commitment to me, and you're not going to worship any other God, you're going to worship me. So even God is a kind of...
Rabbi, can I say something?
Yeah, one more second, Ron. So, but where were the Israelites? Where were the Israelites before they leave Egypt? What were they seeing? What were they seeing around them for 400 years? Gods. All they know is God. All we know is gods, which is probably why one of the first things that happened while we were wandering in the desert is the Ten Commandments. And one of the first things that we hear in the Ten Commandments is, don't worship those things. Those are brand new people. They are fresh out. Those Israelites have no clue what's going on. So Ian doesn't like this, and it's awesome. It's good. We have a covenant with God. It's a covenant. It sounds much better. Yeah, a brit is much better. I like some contracts, but a brit is much better. Ron, save the day.
And then Marsha.
Ron and then Marcia.
Somehow I feel that the authors of the Torah got it a little wrong in when they say so many times that man was made in God's image. somehow I'm getting the feeling that what they should have said was that God was made in man's image.
That's nice. It's very possible. It's very possible. Isn't that what's the name of that book? Isn't that that's Man's Search for God? Is that Man's Search for God? Is that Rosenzweig? That's Buber. Man's Search for God. Heschel. It's Heschel. Yeah, it's Heschel, and then Frankel takes it the next step and does it. Man's Search for Meaning. Man's Search for Meaning. Yeah, it's Heschel. It's Heschel.
Joshua Abraham Heschel.
Yeah, Abraham Joshua Heschel. Yeah, I like him. I liked him. He was a good guy. Yes. He's the best. It's interesting. So yeah, do B'nai Mitzvah get this Torah portion? The answer is yes. Not if you live in a warm climate, because we never have B'nai Mitzvah in the summer. You know who gets these Torah portions, by the way? Kids who go to Jewish summer camp, because these are always the Torah portions that are Jewish summer camps.
Or Jews below these in the southern.
Or Jews who Jews live in cold climates and have a B'nai Mitzvah throughout the whole year. I've never actually done one before because I've lived only in Florida and Arizona and California, so I don't know about it. But yes, but it's interesting because these have to somehow translate also in Jewish summer camps, because year after year after year, these are the Torah portions of Jewish summer camps. Also, I'll tell you, the Torah portion, which we didn't get to, has a million other really cool things in here. Particularly, there's an incredible section on feminism, on the sort of the real roots and birth of this core of women, of the daughters of Tolafchad are in here. So this is which we didn't get here, but it's an amazing section of text. The end of the Torah portion is just just a review of all major holidays. All the holidays are in here. So the 5 major holidays are in here. So a kid could talk about the idea on why we consistently talk about the 5 major holidays that we follow. There's a little piece that I talked about last night about this handover of leadership happens. There's a big section that has to do with Moses and Joshua in this week's Torah portion. So this is why Pinchas is heavy duty. And by the way, I mentioned it last night, and I checked on this in a couple of commentaries, and I really love it, that the 2 Torah portions prior to this and the 2 Torah portions following this can pair with each other. But Pinchas never pairs with another Torah portion. And it's, some people say because you can't, because he's such a rebel and he's such a zealot, but also because it could be a standalone Torah portion because of the gravitas of it. The Torah, this is a massive Torah portion. It is a huge, massive Torah portion. There is so much in here.
Marcia, go ahead.
Marcia.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about Pinchas. I don't think he thought about what he did. He reacted. And I think a lot of us do that. We react without thinking it through. And I feel that it was so horrible to him. It was so ugly to him that he just acted. And I don't think anything.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, and by the way, we are all. I won't speak about everyone in this room. I will speak for myself. I am guilty of acting like that. Sometimes we just act and don't think. It just happens. And doesn't mean that and sometimes we say I was overzealous about that, right? I was overzealous about something even minor, I was overzealous about attempting to do all of that work that I thought I was going to do. Bless you, right? Right? And so the zealousness comes from, or zealotry, or whatever the word is, comes. It's fascinating. But he gets rewarded for it. He somehow, Pinchas, however we like it, however we think this went, he gets rewarded for it. And he does get this pact of shalom. And he does get to be the high priest.
Why were the other 2 Aaron's 2 sons? They were just, the opposite happened to them. They got killed, they got burned because of the fire, the pan of fire. They were zealous,
They were?
They were zealous in a different way. It was in a way not prescribed by God.
You're more comfortable with who? I actually am. I am actually more comfortable. I agree. I'm actually more comfortable with although they die, I'm actually more comfortable with Nadav and Avihu. There are also a million commentaries, although they are not comfortable because they die, that cushion why they do it and make it a little bit better, which is also uncomfortable because at the end of the day they die. But yes, Ian. What's he doing? So first of all, it's a great question. Second of all, I clearly don't know the answer because it doesn't say in the text. But third of all, my hypothesis would be, it would be actually verse 7, right? Don't go all the way back there and turn 1,000 pages, but I'll read it to you. And it says, when Pinchas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron, the priest, saw this, he left the assembly, and taking a spear in his hand, he followed the Israelites, right? So who's to say that Eleazar isn't part of to say, like, don't you see that? Right? And by the way, who's right? He's the son of Aaron the priest. Like, who does, right? And now Aaron's gone because he's dead, right? But who's to say that Eleazar isn't the one who's like, get up, do something. We don't know that, right? And there's a reason why it said here and also said again right afterwards, right? So, well, God rewards Pinchas. Pinchas gets rewarded. He gets the pact of shalom, and he gets to be the high priest. So I would call that I would say that it's pretty good. I would say. Yes?
But there are commentaries that it's not that he was rewarded because what he did was so good, but because what he did was so bad that it snapped God out of God's own impassioned mess, and therefore taught God a lesson.
Possibly.
So it's not necessarily, yay, because it's, okay, thank you for helping check.
It's possible. Yeah. Very nice angle. Yeah.
So you asked a question earlier, how many people think that Pinchas was a murderer?
Yeah.
You know, the law provides different definitions. So moving back, he could be guilty of manslaughter.
Correct.
Rather than murder.
Indeed. Yeah. But the thing, and we can end here, by the way, awesome. Thank you, everyone, for this awesome chat. This is such a fabulous and complicated Torah portion. But the part that always makes me uncomfortable is that, and we touched on it. We've talked about it. Is that we don't want it to be okay in any way, because then I think it opens the door, and we talked about this, as for other people to make the decision that what I'm doing is right, and that allows me to take a spear and ram it through anyone that I want to, because it's going to check a situation, right? So this is the part of Pinchas that always makes me nervous. It always does, because whether he helps to check God, or whether God helps to check him, or whatever the version is the version. He picks the spear up and in an impassioned way and murders these people or kills these people, or these people are dead because of him. While they're having sex.
The fact that they were in a holy place, that must have incensed him.
Right? So that's the part of Pinchas that always leaves me queasy. Is that I don't love that we're allowed to do that, because we don't want that. We don't want a society that allows us to be able to do that, to make a decision, to be like, I don't like this, so I'm going to take my spear and stab you. It doesn't work.
But what about Abraham going to sacrifice his son?
Well, he doesn't. He doesn't.
Gail?
We'll talk about that in a couple of weeks. In a really big room with robes and a lot of nervous clergy. We'll talk about that really soon. That's coming soon. And,
Next summer, can we talk about the no till after 5?
yes, we actually we did last year. We did last year. We did last year. Yeah, we're going to always change it up. We're going to always change it up. Yes.
So this takes into account something that you may have said 6 months to a year ago. So we went over saying murder versus killer.
Yes.
And some example. So this may sound a little weird, and I know I definitely don't have my facts all right on this, but they're kind of know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Okay. So someone, the biggest be a murder, if it was murder,
Yes.
doesn't someone who gets someone who's a murderer, who does it either in passion or heat of the moment, doesn't he have to go to some other land with some?
Nice.
And since he never, that was never mentioned.
Nice.
So is it not considered murder?
I think it's in next week's Torah portion, actually. I think next week's Torah portion, if I'm right, has, it's not the first time, actually, it's just mentioned next week. It's mentioned. So those are called cities of refuge, right? So when someone dies, right, they can go to a city of refuge, and then that's when the court systems eventually happen, and then you adjudicate the situation and say, okay, this was murder, or this was manslaughter, or this was just a mistake, or this was not my mistake, right? So the famous story is like the guy with the axe in the public place who's cutting wood, and then after the fourth time and lifts up the axe, the blade comes off and hits someone, right? And kills them. And so that person can go to the city of refuge so that their family doesn't come and kill them, right? And then the conversation starts, like, whose fault was it? The guy with the axe? Was it the guy who made the axe? Was it the guy who made the wood part of it? Was it the guy who made the top part of the axe? Was it the guy who made the glue? Was it the guy who was standing behind him? Even though the perimeter said, right, that's why there's a sign whenever you walk in Publix that says caution wet floor, right? Because they don't want to have the liability for the fact that you slipped there. So just because the sign is there, now I feel better if I'm Publix to know that it's not my fault you slipped. So, right? So, right? So, But yes, you're right. It all comes from, this is why this text is so good, because this same piece of text allowed us to have this conversation and also talk about Publix next week, truly, because that's where the signs come from, because you're supposed to create this perimeter of safety so that you can take care of society. So, yeah.
So shouldn't, if he's a murderer, though, doesn't it have to get mentioned that he might be going to this?
It's possible. He's the high priest, though. And maybe he gets a pardon. Dr. Bob.
Yeah, one of the things that we are praying for, in our prayer book, I found one example on page 143, is I need strength, humility, courage, patience, and strength to control my passions.
Yeah.
We do pray that we can learn to.
Of course.
So, I know that these are examples of passions we need to learn to control, but unbridled passions are not an acceptable thing.
I hate to break it to you, but this thing is really only about that. Why do we have this tzitzit? It tells us. We read it, particularly in this room, because we do the third paragraph in this room. So why do we wear this? It says it, and it's an uncomfortable piece of language. It says it in the Torah, so that we don't whore after things. This is literally what the reminder is. It's so you're not like impassioned to do things, so you're not like drawn into doing it. I actually had this conversation. I'm not sure if Dad's still listening, but I talked about, my dad was excited. He's listening. So is he on? So yeah, so we were talking about this. He's my dad's a therapist. And so we were talking about the id, the ego, and the superego, right? On how we need all three to function, right? The id keeps life fun, right? And the id keeps like the perspective, but the superego keeps us like fully functional. Otherwise, we'll just go into like, woo, right? And so it's kind of like that, the complexity that these things keep us in check, right? We're going to get impassioned. It's happening, right? The id's going to want to take over, right? But what do we do in our lives We put ourselves in community. We have liturgy. We have prayers. We have thoughtfulness. We have each other. We have our opportunities to talk to one another. We have a tzitzit that we're supposed to look at and remind us. And then it takes care of some of those crazy passions that we have and makes them more functional and makes them more accessible, right? But that's kind of what Freud thought too, which is why he wrote that all down. So, another Jew.
Gail?
Yeah? What vote? About if he's a murderer? I don't think, not necessarily, because one could say that he was or he wasn't. A spirited conversation.
Gail, do you have something you want to say?
Yeah, I wanted to add a comment when, Rabbi, you were talking about his comfort with him taking it upon himself and killing. Adding to that is that God rewards him.
Yeah.
He becomes high priest.
He does.
The promised land with Joshua.
The end of the story is that he's the high priest. The end of the story is that he'll become the high priest. That's the end of the story. The end of the story is he's going to become the high priest. That's a fact. It could have happened anyway. But we also know that we know of the story, and we know of the story, and we also know the end of the story is he becomes the high priest. So whatever we want to do with that middle part, we do with that middle part. We literally have to end because it's about to be lunchtime. We have to switch Torah portions because it's going to be mincha soon. So Bob, and then Jay, and then Susie gets to end, and then we're done.
I think it's interesting since he just left the room with two corpses. Doesn't that make him unclean? Doesn't he have to go through expiation? Doesn't he have to find a red heifer that we can destroy as the last one? I mean, we just have to begin with this.
Yes.
It's all part of God's pardon.
Although he's not the priest at the time. So he is in the priestly line and will become the priest. But he is not the priest at the time. It's an incredibly good question. But just as the top of my head, I guess the response is he doesn't need to because he's not the priest.
We'll just baptize him.
What? Yeah, exactly. All right, Jay.
So we did need this incident to happen because if God's wrath was not turned back, then he would have wiped out the Israelite people.
Uh-huh.
In God's fashion. He
Yeah,
would have done that.
it says so. It says so in this week's Torah portion. It says so, exactly. It says so.
So we needed this to happen.
Yeah.
So that the story can continue.
Yeah, okay. All right, Susie. What are you going to say? Bring it home. No pressure.
This whole discussion with the tzitzit and how we're supposed to control our passions.
It does. I don't write it. It says so. Yeah. Yeah.
But how do the ultra-Orthodox people, the men, at the kotel, feel that they can't hear women's voices? It's going to, I don't know, arouse them. And they do all these horrible things, spitting, tearing up Sibrim, and the whole, I don't understand how they could be, how they can think that what they're doing is right.
Okay. So I'm not going to answer your question because it is great and we don't have time. I will send you to an answer, though, or a very interesting write-up. So do you know Josh Weinberg? You know who Josh Weinberg is? Rabbi Josh Weinberg? So he's, first of all, one of the coolest dudes ever, but he's also a brilliant writer, and his title is so long I never remember. He's the VP of Israel Arts something and related to the Reform movement in Israel. He's amazing. He has like 17 names at the end of his name. And if he's listening, I'm really sorry, Josh. I love you. But he writes a weekly Torah portion. And by the way, I was debating whether to. So last night I spoke a little bit from another friend who's an educator in South Florida. I used some of her stuff for my drash last night. I was looking at his stuff, and that's what he actually talks about. So if you want to have a good response from a really great rabbi named Josh Weinberg, and you can sign up for his weekly email address, his weekly email, by the way. He's phenomenal. We'll direct you how to find him. He talks about it and says, and by the way, why do I mention it? Because 3 weeks ago, by the Kotel, to the side of the Kotel, there's an area called Ezrat Israel, which is part of Robinson's Arch, which is an archaeological area, which is where the Reform and Conservative Jews have B'nai Mitzvah. Because it's actually the wall, it's the actual wall, it's just not the Kotel section, right? And so it's mixed and you can all be together and we can all do and you can put a Torah out. And so 3 weeks ago, if you don't already know this, right? And this, by the way, the women of the wall have to deal with this constantly. So if you follow Women of the Wall, you're just disgusted by this because clearly it's awful. But it spilled over even more 3 weeks ago from Women of the Wall, and now I'm getting 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. It's within the month. I'm getting the date wrong. It just happened that during a service in Ezrat Israel, yeshiva boys, not even men, boys came over and started to spit during the service at the other family, the Reform family from the United States, spit at them, called them Nazis, called them not Jewish, spit at them, and attempted to reach for their prayer books and tear them. And so, and by the way, the Israeli police, they just did like, stop, 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 stop. So, what he writes is about zealotry, and he then ties in the story of this concept of Pinchas into like where does zealotry live, and it's affecting us in a lot of different ways. It's not necessarily this story about Midianites and Moabites, but we're living in it right now, and with Jewish people. So if you want to read a very troubling but very well-written article about this, Rabbi Josh Weinberg, and he talks about this very piece and this very incident, and he actually has a couple of quotes from the B'nai Mitzvah, from the I think it's a bar mitzvah, or I don't remember if it's a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah, but from the family in his drash that he wrote for yesterday, quotes from them about how horrible they feel and how they brought their family with them, some of them for the first time to Israel, and their first experience to Israel is to have Israeli children tear their books and spit at them. So and that's zealotry, right? And that's a form of zealotry. So so beautiful question. I'm not going to answer it, but we can end our Torah discussion with some of the concepts and words from him, and he talks about it, and he talks about how everyone loses. Is pretty much what he says in the article. That when you're a zealot, everyone loses. It doesn't work. It never works out right. You're upset. People are upset. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. That when you lose yourself, it doesn't teach us anything. So that's kind of what he says in the thing. It's a beautiful contemporary issue that he wrote, which is why he's great. He's a great writer. He's a great guy. Everything he writes is about Israel. So if you ever have a chance to, we've had him here before. We've had him visit here before. If we can have him come back and visit. He'll come whenever he wants. Well, he'll come here whenever we want him to. He's happy to come. He's just in New York. He's fine. He can fly down and be down here. You know Josh. Yeah. We can bring him whenever we want. We'll just call him. Do you want to call him right now? I'm just kidding.
Phone a friend.
We can phone a friend. All right. So thank you for a really beautiful and spirited conversation. So we're gonna.
We thank you.
Well, I didn't write it.
Thank you, Rabbi.
So we're gonna, with proper spirit, in a different way, we're going to think of our spirit and think of our thoughts and transition those into spirits and thoughts of healing for those in our community. So if you're thinking of someone and you would like to share their name prior to us doing Mishaberach, please share their name at this time.
Kachanur Gerard family, Stu Truman, Sandy Tankers, Ken Tankers, Lawrence May, Russell Tutfer, all those affected by the war in Ukraine, hate crimes, and violence.
Leah Batrivka, Esther Batrivka, Meir Batrivka, Judy Levine, Rivka Chaya Batlea, Nomi Batlea, Sandy and Ken Tankus, Beth Bat Edith, Carmela Bat Sarah Duff, Harry Pearson, Ian Hess.
Who's happened to be here right now, which is good. Yeah, yeah.
Welcome back, Ian.
משבח אבותינו ואמותינו אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, שרה, רבקה, רחל ולאה, הוא יברך את החולים, הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא רחמים עליהם, להחלימם ולרפאותם ולהחזיקם, ואשלח להם מהרה רפואה שלמה מן השמיים, רפואת הנפש ורפואת הגוף, השתה בגלה בזמן קריב, ונאמר אמן. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Becca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion, for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit, as together we say, Amen. Yeah?
Why do we always say Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah when Rachel was the younger?
Yeah, great.
I'm going to direct you to Rabbi Weinberg.
Exactly. We can talk about it. We can talk about it. And it's actually, and the reason of the change is from one of our teachers that actually Rabbi Kahn mentioned, and he changed it. He thoughtfully changed the structure of it. We'll talk about it. Yeah. We are. And the announcements. There's one more Thursday event if you'd like. We've had 3 or 4 of our CBI Thursdays. This coming Thursday is blanket making, not with the sisterhood, just in general. Sisterhood might be there as well, but it's not a sisterhood event. I got yelled at. But blanket making and food. There's going to be food. There can be some food there too, I think. So there's always food. So there'll be food. That's on Thursday. Israel trip.
Cracker Jack there?
Oh, Cracker Jacks were so good at the thing. I love the Cracker Jacks were so good. No, probably not Cracker Jacks. Probably better food than Cracker Jacks. Thank you. Rabbi Silvers is having a 3-session series. The flyers are in the back. I think the first one is 24th. Yeah, so that's coming up. It's about food, which is great. About Judaism and food. He'll be doing a 3-part series on that. Israel trip, if you want to join us in June 11th, 23. And I think that's it. There's a Brotherhood. The Brotherhood flyers are about there. I can see 2 if you want some Brotherhood flyers. Those are our announcements. Yes, Rabbi Khan is going to be here for our first service tomorrow for next week. So yeah, Rabbi Khan and Robin are going to be here. So we're going to have a lot of tech, and it's going to be great. We figured it out. We figured out the last. We tried 8 things, and then the 9th thing was the problem. So now we know. Now we got it.
Friday or Saturday?
Yes, both of them.
Oh, wow.
Yes. She will be. She'll be running Friday night as well. Friday night she's running the service along with Susan Linder, and with our religious school director, Rachel Wolf. So all 3 will be leading services Friday night, and tomorrow, I keep saying that, and next week, Shabbat morning, will be with Robin and Rabbi Khan. We'll be here. I am going, during the summer, the clergy are kind of off and on, swinging in and out. And No, and I'm actually going to be faculty at Camp Coleman. I'm going to URJ Camp Coleman. So it's my week stint at Camp Coleman. So I'm going to be at camp and hang out with 500 of my closest Jewish friends. There's a blessing you say, yes. May the Lord and keep you far away from the Tsar. Yes. Yeah. Yes. That's the blessing. We're going to continue with Aleinu, verse 282. Together we stand. I know, that was a long Torah study.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו ביואי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ולמודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
As we transition now to Kaddish Tom, we think of those in the period of Shloshim, the immediate 30-day mourning period, Joan Katz, Dr. Stephen Jarecki, Moshe Zetri, and our yortzites that occur for us this week, Miriam Appel, Stanley Cannon, Susan Diamond, Ephraim Frankel, Lee Gardner, Gilbert Julius German, Sylvia German, Jean Gittleson, Lottie Goldberg, Ruth Goldberg, Lois Goldberger, Michelle Gold Proctor, Barbara Janis, Ethel Kirstein, Herman Kupferberg, Zaida Krauscher, Bonnie Larson, Edwin Lichtenfeld, Beatrice Posis, Abraham Rosenblatt, Alan Rubin, Melissa Schaffner, Max Siegel, Stanford Silvestri, Gloria Werner, Abraham Weineck, Louis Zeiden. To those names, we had any name that you'd like to add at this time.
David Nitzkoff.
294. יתגדל ויקדש שמי רבה, ועמד יברח חיותי והמליך מלכותי, וחיי חון ויומי חון וחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה וזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהא שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולמי עולמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהא שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, as together we say amen. We conclude on this, it's still morning, on this morning with Adon Olam.
Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzin Yivra Alein Nasa V'chefzo Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei Hichlot HaKol
321 by the way, 321 if you want. 321.
והוא יהיה בתפארה, והוא יהיה בתפארה, והוא אחד ואין שני להמשילו להכבירה, בלי ראשית, בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה, ולא העוז והמשרה, והוא אלי וחי גואלי וצור חבלי ויצרה, והוא ניסי
ומנוס לי
בנת כוסי ביום מקרא, בנת כוסי
ביום אקרא בידו אפקיד רוחי בעת אישן וערירה ואם רוחי גוויעתי אדוני לי ולא יירא אדוני לי ולא יירא Adonai oz amo iten, Adonai varech et amo v'shalom, and God will give strength unto our people, continue to bless us with hope and strength and love and peace. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Shabbat shalom.